New York, Harlem. An ordinary neighborhood celebration turns into a public humiliation when a reckless young gangster crosses a line that should never have been crossed, publicly humiliating Bumpy Johnson's wife. The young gangster has no idea how profoundly that single moment will change both his own life and the future of Harlem. If you enjoy stories about the legends of Harlem streets, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future episodes. Make yourself comfortable. We're getting started. 7:06. Harlem wakes before the sun finishes, deciding what color the roof should be. Delivery trucks cough along Lenox Avenue. Metal shutters rise. Brooms scrape sidewalks. Coffee begins moving through kitchens before money begins moving through stores. On West 138th Street, volunteers carry wooden tables toward the fenced neighborhood lot beside St. Matthew's Hall. Today is the Harlem Summer Exhibition, not a parade, not a political speech, something smaller, more important: bakers, tailors, carpenters, florists, people showing what their hands can make when the city stops taking from them for one afternoon. A neighborhood does not announce survival, it sets up tables. 7:18. Clara Johnson arrives in a cream-colored Buick, driven by a bakery assistant named Ruth Carter. The trunk is full: pies in white boxes, butter cakes wrapped in wax paper, chocolate squares packed between sheets of parchment, 2 trays of small lemon tarts. Clara steps onto the pavement, wearing a pale blue dress beneath a clean white apron. No jewelry except her wedding ring. No entourage. She owns a bakery 3 streets east. Most people call it Clara's. The sign says Johnson's Confectionery. Names on signs are promises. The ovens had been burning since before dawn. Good food requires patience. Reputation requires more. 7:31. Ruth carries the first box. Clara carries 2. A volunteer offers to help. She refuses politely. Not because the boxes are light, because work displayed by your own hands should arrive in those same hands. Their assigned table stands near the center aisle, a good position, close to the music platform, far enough from the children's games, across from a shoemaker, beside a woman selling hand-sewn baby clothes. Clara examines the table. One leg is shorter. She folds a piece of cardboard and slides it beneath the wood. Balance is rarely perfect. Most of the time, it is built. 7:43. The square fills by inches. A butcher hangs paper signs. A teenage painter leans canvases against a brick wall. 2 brothers arrange radios they repaired from discarded parts. At the entrance, Helen Mercer checks names against a clipboard. Helen organized the exhibition. 46 years old, widowed, small glasses. A voice that could stop arguments without becoming louder. She believes every table should receive the same space. Every child should receive the same ticket. Every vendor should know where the fire buckets are. Rules seem boring until something burns. Then rules become the only interesting thing in the world. 7:55. Clara opens the first box. Warm sugar enters the air. The shoemaker across from her stops working. He looks up. "Mrs. Johnson, that ought to be illegal." Clara smiles. "Only if you don't pay." He laughs. She begins arranging the display. Large cakes in the back. Small pastries in front. Nothing hidden. Nothing piled carelessly. Customers should see what they are buying. Men who hide poor goods behind good words often become politicians. Women who sell cakes cannot afford the same trick. Flour remembers every shortcut. So does a neighborhood. 8:07. Bumpy Johnson arrives without announcement. A black Cadillac stops beside the curb. The driver remains behind the wheel. Bumpy steps out alone. Dark suit, white shirt, hat angled low enough to shade his eyes. The first people to notice him do not stare. They simply make room. Respect does not always bow. Sometimes it adjusts its path. He crosses the square slowly, not surveying, not greeting everyone, but seeing everything. The entrances, the alleys, the parked cars, the men who belong, the men who are only passing through. Safety begins with knowing the difference. 8:18. Bumpy reaches Clara's table. He looks at the pastries, then at the cardboard beneath the uneven leg. You fixed it. It was crooked. Most things are. Clara hands him a small lemon tart. He takes it. No ceremony. No smile for the crowd. Marriage is not a performance for strangers. He bites once, nods. That is the review. Clara understands. Praise from a man who speaks carefully carries more weight than applause from 20 people who speak for free. Around them, vendors continue working. The exhibition is not about Bumpy. That is why he respects it. 8:29, Helen approaches with her clipboard. Mr. Johnson, Miss Mercer. She explains the schedule. Music after midday. Children's drawing contest before lunch. Awards in the afternoon. Bumpy listens without interrupting. Helen asks whether two of his men can keep cars from blocking the entrance. He glances toward the street. They won't stand inside. That wasn't what I asked. I know. She holds his gaze, then nods. People often mistake influence for ownership. Helen does not. That is why Bumpy answers her plainly. The strongest neighborhoods are not ruled by one man. They are protected by many people who refuse to disappear. 8:42. A church volunteer brings coffee. Clara takes hers with little sugar. Bumpy takes his black. He stands beside the table while morning light reaches the upper windows. A boy carrying folding chairs runs too fast. One slips. Bumpy catches it before it strikes the display. The boy freezes. Sorry, Mr. Johnson. Bumpy sets the chair down. Walk when your hands are full. The boy nods and leaves slower. Fear teaches quickly, but it teaches the wrong lesson if used too often. Bumpy watches him go. Control is not making everyone afraid. Control is knowing when fear is unnecessary. 8:54, Clara straightens a row of chocolate squares. You'll be here for the judging. If I can. That means no. It means if I can. She looks at him. He looks back. Neither wins. Marriage is the only negotiation where victory can cost more than surrender. Bumpy lowers his voice. I'll return before the music ends. Clara accepts that, not because she believes the schedule, because she believes the effort. A man's promises are often larger than his day. The honest ones know it. He touches the edge of the table once, then steps away. 9:05. The Cadillac leaves the curb. Bumpy does not look back through the rear window. Clara watches until the car turns. Then she returns to arranging napkins. The square is nearly full now. Customers begin entering. Mothers with children, men from the garages, women from beauty shops. Older couples walking slowly enough to examine everything. Coins change hands. Brown bags fill. Music plays from a portable speaker beside the platform. The sound crackles. Nobody complains. Perfection is expensive. Joy knows how to use cheaper equipment. For the first time that morning, the exhibition feels alive. 9:17. The first sale is a lemon cake. A nurse buys it for her mother. The second is 6 cookies for children who argue over which ones are largest. Clara makes them close their eyes. Then she switches the bags until each believes he has won. Fairness is sometimes presentation. Ruth handles the money box. Clara speaks with customers. She remembers names. She asks about husbands. She asks about babies. She notices when people look at prices too long. 2 slices disappear into paper without coins changing hands. Charity offered publicly becomes humiliation. Clara never offers it publicly. Dignity is also part of the recipe. 9:28. At the opposite end of the square, a young jazz trio begins tuning instruments. A trumpet releases one uncertain note. A drummer taps the rim. Children gather near the platform. Helen directs them back from the cables. A police patrol car rolls past the entrance. It slows. The officers look in, then continue. Nobody relaxes. Uniforms do not always create safety. Sometimes they only remind people who will write the report afterward. The exhibition continues. A man wins a jar of candy by guessing the number inside. His answer is wrong. The vendor lets him win anyway. A good day can afford small lies. 9:39. 3 young Italian men turn onto the street. They walk side by side, not because the sidewalk requires it, because other people do. The man in the middle is Vincent Rallo, 28, broad shoulders, black hair combed backward, a red silk tie beneath an open jacket. He has recently been trusted with collections near the garment district. A small responsibility. He wears it like a crown. To his right walks Paulie Seurat, thin face, fast laugh. To his left, Dominic Tasso, quiet, heavy hands. Every group has one man who talks, one who laughs, one who waits. Trouble requires all 3. 9:50, they stop outside the entrance. Vincent reads the painted sign, Harlem Summer Exhibition. He smiles without warmth. Paulie says something under his breath. Dominic does not react. Helen notices them. So does the shoemaker. So do 2 older men beside the hardware stall. Nobody recognizes their faces, but everyone recognizes their manner. Certain men enter a place as guests. Others enter as though the place has already apologized. Vincent adjusts his cuffs, then walks inside. No ticket, no greeting, no question. A boundary ignored once becomes easier to ignore twice. 10:02. At first, they do nothing. That is what makes people watch. Vincent examines the repaired radios. He turns a dial without asking. Static fills the air. Paulie lifts a framed painting and laughs at the price. Dominic stands behind them. His eyes never rest on the merchandise, only on the people. Predators do not study the grass. They study what moves through it. The teenage painter asks Paulie to put the frame down. Paulie holds it another second, then returns it crooked. A small insult. Small insults are tests. They reveal who will object and who will pretend not to notice. 10:13. Vincent reaches the fruit stand. He takes a peach, presses his thumb into it. Too hard. Juice breaks through the skin. The vendor says nothing. Vincent bites once, then places the damaged fruit back among the others. Paulie laughs. Dominic watches the vendor's hands. The man's fingers tighten around the edge of the table, then release. He has a wife nearby, 2 daughters, a shop with windows. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the calculation of what fear may cost everyone else. Vincent walks away believing he has won. Men like him often confuse restraint with surrender. 10:24. Helen intercepts them near the candle stall. Gentlemen, Vincent stops. She points toward the entrance. Admission is 25 cents. Paulie laughs. You charging us to walk now? I charge everyone. Vincent looks at the clipboard, then at Helen. Put us down as sponsors. No. Her voice remains even. The square hears it. Vincent reaches into his pocket. For one moment, several people expect money. He removes a nickel, places it on her clipboard. Keep the change. Then he walks past. Helen does not look at the coin. Humiliation only works when the victim agrees to carry it. She lets it fall. 10:35. The nickel hits the ground. A small sound. Still heard. Dominic glances back. Helen continues checking names. No anger, no embarrassment. The most dangerous refusal is the one that requires no speech. Vincent notices too. His shoulders tighten. Men who depend on reactions become offended when denied one. He turns toward Polly. Let's see what they're selling. They move deeper into the square. The crowd parts. Not completely, just enough. Fear does not always run. Sometimes it takes half a step. Half steps become roads if repeated often enough. 10:46. Clara sees them for the first time. Not directly. In the reflection of a glass cake cover, 3 figures moving between customers. One red tie, one sharp laugh, one man who never smiles. She continues speaking with an elderly customer. The woman wants a cake for Sunday. Clara explains how long it will keep. Her voice does not change, but her eyes mark the men's position. Marriage to Bumpy did not teach her fear. Harlem had already done that. What marriage taught her was not to display it. Fear shown too soon becomes an invitation. Fear hidden too long becomes a mistake. 10:57. Vincent stops at the shoemaker's stall. A pair of handmade brown shoes rests on a cloth. He picks one up, checks the stitching. Too much, the shoemaker answers carefully. They're made by hand. So are mistakes, Polly laughs. The shoemaker reaches for the shoe. Vincent does not release it. For 3 seconds, both men hold the leather. The square continues moving around them. Then the shoemaker lets go. Vincent drops the shoe onto the table. Not hard enough to damage it, hard enough to make a point. Power loves gestures that cannot be charged in court. 11:08. At the children's game, Polly takes 3 wooden rings. The volunteer explains that each child receives 1 turn. Polly throws all 3, misses twice. The third lands around a bottle. He takes the largest prize, a stuffed bear. A little girl protests. That was mine. Polly bends toward her. Not anymore. Her mother pulls her back. The girl begins crying. Polly carries the bear under one arm. Vincent smiles. Dominic looks away. Not from shame, from boredom. Cruelty is not always rage. Sometimes it is entertainment performed by men who need witnesses. 11:19. Helen reaches them again. Return it. Polly holds the bear higher. To who? The child. She lost. She didn't play. Vincent steps between them. You always this serious? Only when people mistake patience for weakness. A few nearby vendors hear her. Vincent hears more than the words. He hears that she is still standing, that the crowd is still watching, that his first insult did not own the square. He takes the bear from Polly. For a moment, it appears he will return it. Then he throws it onto the dusty pavement. The child screams. Laughter follows, only from 2 men. 11:30. Dominic does not laugh. He studies the entrance. A black sedan is parked across the street. 2 men sit inside. Local men, not police, not vendors. Vincent notices Dominic's attention. Something wrong? Dominic answers quietly. People are watching. Vincent looks around. Good. That is the difference between caution and vanity. Caution notices eyes. Vanity needs them. Vincent walks toward the music platform. He has not yet found the moment he came for. Some men wake looking for profit. Some look for respect. The worst look for proof that no one can stop them. Proof always requires an audience. 11:41. The jazz trio begins its first song. Trumpet, upright bass, drums. The music is light, summer music, the kind that makes strangers nod at one another. For several minutes, the square breathes again. Vincent and his men stand near the platform. Paulie claps off rhythm. Dominic smokes. Vincent watches couples move. He appears calm. That makes him more dangerous. Noise announces itself. Intent does not. Clara sells the last slice of chocolate cake from her first tray. Ruth opens another box. Neither woman speaks about the three Italians. Sometimes naming trouble gives it a chair. 11:52. Vincent walks behind the musicians. He examines the trumpet case. The player stops mid-song. "You need something?" Vincent removes a dollar bill, drops it into the open case, then takes out two. The crowd sees. The trumpet player sees. Paulie grins. "That's our song now." Vincent points toward the drummer. "Play something faster." The musician looks toward Helen. Helen shakes her head once. The drummer rests his sticks across the drum. The music stops. Silence moves through the square. Not naturally, deliberately. A song can be interrupted. A community cannot, but it can be forced to prove the difference. 12:03. Vincent looks at the musicians. "No music?" The trumpet player closes his case. "Break time." "You just started." "Still a break." Vincent smiles. He enjoys resistance when it arrives in manageable pieces. It gives him something to crush. Paulie steps toward the drummer. Dominic reaches out, not touching him, only blocking the path. A subtle warning. Paulie sees it, stops. Vincent sees it too. His face hardens. Leaders who lack discipline often resent it in subordinates. Dominic says quietly, "Too many families." Vincent answers, "That's the point." The words travel farther than he intends. 12:14. Clara hears them. So does Ruth. Ruth closes the cash box, not locking it, just closing it. A small instinct. Clara places one hand over hers. "Keep serving." Ruth looks toward Vincent. "What if, keep serving?" The sentence is soft. Soft does not mean weak. Soft is how steel sounds before it is struck. A customer asks for 2 tarts. Clara wraps them. The paper folds cleanly. Her fingers do not tremble. The woman pays. Neither mentions the silence near the platform. Normality becomes a form of resistance when someone arrives to destroy it. 12:25. Helen signals the musicians to take a real break. She announces the children's drawing contest instead. Her voice carries across the lot. Parents move their children toward long tables covered in paper. Crayons appear. The square rearranges itself. A practical response. Danger likes fixed targets. Communities survive by changing shape. Vincent watches the shift. He understands what Helen has done. She did not confront him. She removed the moment he intended to control. That irritates him more than an argument. He turns toward Paulie. "We're getting hungry." Paulie points toward Clara's table. "That looks expensive." Vincent follows the gesture. 12:36. Clara's display is now the busiest table in the square. The morning heat has softened the butter frosting. Ruth replaces melting decorations with fresh ones. A line of customers waits. Children point at sugar flowers. 2 men from the garage buy an entire pie. A school teacher places an order for a church meeting. Business creates a rhythm. Question, price, paper, coins, bag, next. Rhythm protects attention. until something enters that refuses the rhythm. Vincent begins walking toward the table, not quickly. Paulie beside him, Dominic behind. The crowd notices before Clara does. Movement changes. Conversations shorten. The line loosens. Trouble rarely needs an introduction. 12:47. A woman at the front takes her bag and leaves. The next customer steps aside, then another. Within seconds, the space in front of Clara's table clears. Vincent enters it. He studies the display. Up close, he smells of cigarettes and expensive cologne. Paulie still carries the stolen bear. Dust marks one side of it. Dominic remains half a step behind. Clara looks at each man, then at the empty space where her customers had been. Fear steals business before it steals money. Vincent touches the glass cover. "Pretty," Clara answers. "Thank you." Courtesy offered under pressure is not submission. It is evidence. 12:58. Vincent lifts the glass cover without asking. His hand hovers above the pastries. Clara says nothing yet. He chooses a lemon tart. Takes one bite. Chews slowly. Paulie watches him. The performance requires approval. Vincent places the half-eaten tart back on the tray. Ruth flinches. Clara removes the tart, drops it into an empty paper bag. Vincent reaches for a butter cookie, then another. No coin, no question, no hesitation. The line of customers has disappeared. The table is now a stage. Men like Vincent never understand that stages also create witnesses. 13:09. Paulie takes a chocolate square. Not bad, he takes a second. Dominic does not touch anything. He watches Clara. She notices. The quiet man is often the one measuring consequences. Vincent points at a frosted cake. "What's that?" "Vanilla with almond cream." He presses one finger into the frosting. Ruth inhales sharply. Clara removes the damaged cake from display, places it beneath the table. No accusation, no raised voice. Vincent smiles. He believes she is cleaning up after him. He does not understand that she is documenting his character one action at a time. Behavior is a confession without ink. 13:20. A boy approaches the table holding 2 coins. His mother calls him back. He stops, looks at Clara, then at Vincent, returns to his mother. Vincent sees it. That pleases him. He takes another cookie. Clara finally speaks. "This table is for customers." Paulie laughs. "We're customers. Customers pay." Vincent looks at the cookie in his hand, then at Clara. "How much?" 10 cents. He places the cookie in his mouth, chews, reaches into his pocket, removes nothing. "Put it on my account." "You don't have one." A few people hear. More begin listening. 13:31. Vincent leans closer. "You know who I am?" Clara answers. "No." The truth lands harder than an insult. Paulie stops smiling for half a second. Dominic's eyes shift toward Vincent. A name feared in one district may mean nothing 3 streets away. Reputation is geography pretending to be power. Vincent straightens. "Vincent Rallo." Clara waits. He expects recognition. None comes. She adjusts the serving knife beside the cake. Not threatening, just returning it to place. Order is another way of refusing chaos. Vincent looks around. He needs the crowd to see him recover. Pride does not heal. It retaliates. 13:42. Clara speaks before he does. "Mr. Rallo, you're blocking the table." Her tone remains courteous. "You've taken enough." Paulie's laugh returns. Vincent does not join him. The crowd has formed a wide circle without intending to. No one stands close. No one leaves. People understand thresholds. They may not know what comes after, but they know when one is near. Clara continues. "If you want to buy something, Ruth will help you. If not, step aside so the others can come through. The words are simple. That makes them impossible to misunderstand. A command wrapped in manners is still a command. 1353. Vincent looks over his shoulder, at the vendors, at Helen, at the musicians, at the mothers holding children close. He sees fear, but he also sees expectation. Everyone waits to learn whether he will obey a baker. That is how he interprets it. Not as a woman protecting her work, not as a merchant addressing a customer, as humiliation. Weak men require every room to confirm their strength. When a room refuses, they punish the furniture. Vincent turns back, reaches for another tart. Clara moves the tray away. 1 inch, nothing more. The smallest boundary can expose the largest insecurity. 1404. Vincent's hand closes on empty air. The square becomes silent. Even the children's crayons seem quieter. Clara holds the tray against her waist. You've had enough. Vincent lowers his hand. Enough? Yes. His face changes slowly. The smile remains. The eyes do not. Polly watches him carefully now. Dominic glances again toward the entrance. The black sedan across the street is gone. No immediate protection. No obvious witnesses with authority. Only neighbors. Vincent mistakes this for safety. A crowd without guns still carries memory. Memory travels farther than bullets, and it misses less often. 1415. Helen steps forward. Mr. Rallo! Vincent raises one finger without looking at her. Stay out of it. Helen stops. Not because he ordered her, because Clara has not asked for help. There are moments when intervention protects. There are moments when it steals a person's right to stand. Clara places the tray down behind her, then faces Vincent with both hands visible. No weapon, no panic. This is a neighborhood event, her voice carries. You've frightened customers. You've damaged food. You need to leave the table. Every sentence is calm. Every sentence removes another excuse. 1426. Polly whispers, "Come on, Vince." It is the first intelligent thing he has said. Vincent hears surrender in it. He turns his head. "What?" Polly shrugs. "Nothing." Dominic speaks quietly. "We've been seen." Vincent looks at him. "By who?" Dominic does not answer. The correct answer is everyone. Vincent faces Clara again. He needs to reverse the moment, to make her smaller, to make the crowd laugh, to prove that the command belonged to him. He looks down at the table. 4 cakes, 3 trays, glass jars, a cash box. Weeks of work measured in wood and sugar. Destruction is the cheapest form of authority. 1437. Vincent places both hands beneath the edge of the table. Ruth sees it first. No, Clara moves toward him. Too late. The table rises. For one suspended second, everything remains arranged. Cakes, tarts, napkins, the cash box. Then gravity chooses sides. Wood crashes onto pavement. Glass shatters. Pastries scatter. Frosting strikes the stones. Coins roll beneath shoes. A jar of cherries breaks open. Red syrup runs through dust. Children scream. The sound of a table falling lasts less than 2 seconds. The consequences begin before it stops. 1448. Nobody moves. The square holds one breath. Clara looks at the wreckage, not at Vincent. That angers him. He did not overturn the table for the table. He did it for her face, for fear, for shock, for surrender. She gives him none. Ruth stands behind her with both hands over her mouth. Helen moves toward the children. The shoemaker steps from his stall. Dominic notices. His right hand enters his jacket. A warning. The shoemaker stops. Violence often begins before the first weapon appears. It begins when everyone calculates who will reach one first. 14:59. Clara lifts her eyes. "You're finished." The sentence is quiet. Vincent hears it. Everyone hears it. He laughs once, not because anything is funny, because laughter can hide the sound of judgment arriving. He steps closer. "What did you say?" "You're finished here." Paulie grins again, relieved to recognize the old pattern. Threat, reaction, submission. But Clara does not follow the pattern. She remains between Vincent and the ruined table. A white apron marked with cherry syrup, her hands empty, her spine straight. Dignity can look fragile. That is why cowards test it. 15:10. Vincent reaches inside his jacket. Dominic says his name. Vince. Too late. The revolver appears. Nickel-plated. Short barrel. Clean. The kind of weapon purchased to be seen. Vincent holds it near his waist. Not aimed directly. Not yet. That distinction comforts no one. Several mothers pull children behind them. The musicians lower themselves behind the platform. Helen stands frozen beside the drawing table. Paulie laughs. The laugh breaks halfway through. Even he understands the room has changed. A firearm does not enter a conversation. It ends one and starts another. The second conversation has fewer words. 15:21. Vincent raises the revolver slightly. He looks at Clara. Away from the table, she does not move. There is no table. The words travel through the square. Somewhere near the entrance, a man whispers a prayer. Vincent's face tightens. Clara looks at the weapon once, then back at him. No challenge, no pleading, just recognition. Fear is natural. What a person does after recognizing it becomes character. Vincent steps through crushed pastries. His polished shoe presses into a lemon tart. Sugar sticks to leather. Power often leaves ridiculous footprints. Nobody laughs. 15:32. Vincent stops close enough for Clara to smell tobacco on his breath. He gestures with the gun toward the wreckage. "You telling me what to do?" "I told you to stop bothering customers." "And if I don't?" The question is louder than necessary. He wants the square to hear. Clara answers without raising her voice. "Then everyone here will remember what kind of man needed a gun to frighten a baker." Paulie's smile disappears. Dominic closes his eyes for one brief moment. The shot does not come. Something else does. Humiliation. Public. Complete. More dangerous than anger. At 15:43. Vincent's arm stiffens. The barrel rises another inch. Helen says, "There are children." He does not look at her. Clara remains still. The space between the gun and her body becomes the center of Harlem. No music, no traffic, no voices. Silence here is not the absence of sound. It is a command waiting for an owner. Dominic steps forward, not in front of Vincent, beside him. "Enough!" Vincent turns. The word shocks him more than Clara's refusal. His own man has spoken against the performance. Authority borrowed from fear cannot survive disagreement. It begins cracking immediately. 15:54. Vincent points the gun toward the ground, not lowering it, redirecting the shame. "You giving orders now?" Dominic's face remains flat. "I'm saying we should go." Paulie looks between them. He no longer knows when to laugh. The crowd sees the split. Vincent sees them seeing it. That is the final injury. He shoves the revolver back beneath his jacket, then points at Clara with an empty hand. "This isn't over," Clara answers. "It was over when you walked in." No applause follows, no cheers. People understand that victory celebrated too early becomes evidence at a funeral. 16:05. Vincent turns away. His shoe slips slightly on frosting. He catches himself. Paulie looks down. Dominic looks at no one. The three men walk toward the entrance. The crowd opens, not out of respect, out of caution. There is a difference. Vincent mistakes it again. At the gate, he turns. He looks at the square, at Clara, at the overturned table. He expects one final sign of fear. Instead, Helen bends to pick up a child's drawing. The shoemaker begins collecting broken glass. Life resumes around the damage. Nothing insults a bully more than becoming temporary. 1616. The Italians disappear around the corner. Nobody follows. For several seconds, nobody speaks. Then sound returns unevenly. A child crying. Glass moved into a box. Someone asking whether Clara is hurt. Someone else calling for water. Ruth kneels beside the cash box. Coins are scattered beneath the table. Clara touches her shoulder. Leave the money. But leave it. Money can wait. People cannot. Clara walks toward the frightened children. She tells them the loud noise is finished. She does not tell them the danger is finished. Adults owe children comfort. They do not owe them lies. 1627. Helen approaches Clara. Are you hurt? No. Did he touch you? No. Helen looks toward the street. Everyone saw. Clara follows her gaze. Vendors stand around the wreckage, not staring at her, avoiding her eyes. Shame has moved through the square, but it belongs to the wrong person. That is how public cruelty works. The guilty man leaves lighter. The witnesses carry what remains. Clara removes her apron. Cherry syrup covers the front. She folds it carefully, not because it is clean, because disorder has already taken enough. 1638. The shoemaker lifts the broken table. One leg has split near the joint. I can repair it. Clara examines the wood. Not today. A woman brings a broom. Another brings boxes. The teenage painter gathers unbroken pastries. Most cannot be sold. Some can be cleaned and wrapped for the church kitchen. Waste hurts people who understand labor. Every crushed cake represents butter, flour, eggs, hours. Men like Vincent see objects. Workers see time. Time is not numbers. It is alignment, hands, heat, patience. One violent second can scatter all three. 1649. Helen wants to close the exhibition. Several vendors agree. The police should be called. The children should be sent home. The music should stop. Clara listens, then shakes her head. No. Helen looks at the shattered jars. He had a gun. I saw it. He may come back. He may. Clara turns toward the remaining tables. If we close, everyone remembers that he ended the day. The sentence settles. A neighborhood has few ways to defend itself without weapons. Continuing is one. Helen studies Clara for several seconds, then raises her clipboard. The drawing contest resumes in 10 minutes. 1700. The announcement travels through the square, uncertain at first, then repeated. Parents look at one another. Some leave, most remain. The musicians return to the platform. The trumpet player opens his case. His hands shake. He places the mouthpiece against his lips. The first note cracks. He tries again. This one holds. The drummer joins. Then the bass. Music enters the space Vincent left behind. Not triumphant, not loud, steady. Courage rarely sounds like a march. Most of the time, it sounds like someone beginning again while afraid. 1711. Clara sets up a replacement table, 2 sawhorses, 1 wooden door borrowed from the church basement. A white cloth covers the scratches. The display is smaller now. 6 cakes survived, 2 trays of cookies, 1 pie. Ruth arranges them. Her hands still tremble. Clara places the first tray. Straight, Ruth adjusts it. Like this? Closer. They work without discussing the gun. Trauma does not always ask to be spoken about immediately. Sometimes it first asks for a task, a tray, a cloth, a line that can be made straight. Control returns in small measurements. 1722. Customers begin approaching again. Slowly, a woman buys the damaged almond cake beneath the table. Clara refuses payment. The woman leaves twice the price in the cash box. A mechanic buys every remaining lemon tart. He does not need them. The church choir orders 3 cakes for the next week. Business becomes a language. Each purchase says the same thing. We saw. We stayed. The Italians damage the table. The neighborhood rebuilds the meaning. No one says Bumpy's name yet. They do not need to. His absence sits beside Clara like an empty chair. Everyone knows that chair will not remain empty forever. 1733. Near the gate, Walter Price speaks with Helen. Walter owns a small print shop. 52. Thin mustache. Gray vest. He witnessed every second. We have to tell him. Helen knows who he means. Clara decides. Walter looks toward the replacement table. She won't want a war. No one wants a war. That never stopped one. Helen lowers her voice. The wrong messenger can turn an insult into an order. Walter understands. News changes shape while traveling. A raised gun becomes a fired gun. A broken table becomes an attack. By the time anger receives the story, truth may already be dead. By 1744, Clara hears them. She finishes wrapping a cake, then walks over. You're right. Walter waits. She continues. He has to know. Helen asks. What do you want said? Exactly what happened. No more? No more. No less. Clara looks at her. No less. Precision is mercy when dealing with dangerous men. Exaggeration creates graves. Omission creates permission. Walter removes a small notebook. Begins writing. Vincent's name. Description. The revolver. The overturned table. The words he used. The men beside him. Clara watches every line. Facts are colder than anger. That is why they travel better. 1755. Walter tears the page from his notebook. Clara stops him. Not you. He frowns. Why? You have a wife at the table. That's exactly why? No. Her voice ends the argument. The messenger must not be someone who can be followed home. Helen suggests a telephone. Clara rejects it. Telephones have operators, shared lines, ears, and tone cannot be controlled once a voice breaks. The message must reach Bumpy clean. No panic, no audience, no opportunity for someone else to add blood that was never spilled. Truth needs protection too, especially when men are waiting for an excuse. 1806. A delivery driver named Samuel Reed steps forward. 23. Tall, quiet. He works for a pharmacy near 7th Avenue. His bicycle rests against the fence. I can take it. Clara studies him. Samuel saw the gun. His face is still pale. Fear makes poor messengers when it controls the mouth. But Samuel's voice is steady. You know where he is? I know where his driver waits on Wednesdays. Today is Wednesday. Clara folds the written page twice, hands it to him. Give it only to Bumpy. Samuel nods. And say nothing on the way. He places the message inside his shirt pocket. Some paper weighs more than steel. 1817. Samuel mounts the bicycle. Before leaving, he looks back at Clara. What should I say if he asks how you are? Clara glances toward the rebuilt table. Tell him I'm still working. Samuel waits for more. There is none. He pushes into the street. The bicycle chain clicks. His tires pass over the same pavement Vincent crossed earlier. Two men leaving the same place. One carrying vanity, one carrying truth. The city does not always know which is more dangerous. Samuel turns south. The exhibition disappears behind him. Harlem begins rearranging itself around the message. 1828. Inside the square, people talk quietly, not gossip, calculation. The Italians were young, that matters. Young men often borrow the authority of older bosses without borrowing their discipline. They collect names, they mention syndicates, they use reputations built by men who learned what wars cost. The older bosses negotiate, the younger ones perform. Performance is dangerous because the audience eventually demands an ending. Walter tells Helen that Vincent belongs to a crew operating west of Broadway. Not high-ranking, not untouchable, but connected enough to make retaliation complicated. Small men create large wars because they misunderstand the size of their own shadows. 1839, Clara hears fragments. Commission, territory, retaliation, she keeps serving. A customer asks whether the cakes are safe. Clara looks at her. The cakes are fine. The woman means more than cakes. Clara answers only what can be answered. Across the square, the shoemaker hammers a temporary brace into the broken table leg. Each strike carries. Metal against wood. Repeated. Measured. The sound resembles a judge's gavel. Nobody says so. The exhibition continues beneath a new atmosphere. The day is still bright. The air is still warm. But every person understands that somewhere beyond the square, a decision is approaching. 1850. Samuel rides through traffic. Buses, taxis, delivery trucks. He keeps one hand near his shirt pocket. The message feels visible. Every stranger appears to be watching. Fear turns ordinary streets into surveillance. At an intersection, a sedan slows beside him. Samuel looks forward. The car continues. He exhales. The light changes. He rides again. He does not know whether Bumpy is angry. He does not know whether Bumpy will believe restraint is still possible. A messenger carries information. He also carries the future reaction to it. That is why his legs feel heavier with every block. 1901. At the exhibition, the children's drawings are placed along a clothesline. Houses, families, cars, flags. One child has drawn Clara's bakery table. Yellow cakes, blue cloth. A woman standing behind it. No gun, no broken glass. Children repair memory faster than adults. Helen gives the drawing first prize. Not from pity, because it shows the day people came to have. The intended day still matters. Violence does not deserve ownership of the entire memory. Clara accepts the ribbon on the child's behalf. She smiles for the first time since the table fell. Only for the child. Then the smile is gone. 1912. Samuel reaches a barber shop on 132nd Street. Bumpy's driver is not outside. The Cadillac is gone. Samuel leans the bicycle against a lamppost. He enters. 4 men turn. Scissors stop moving. Samuel asks for Bumpy. Nobody answers immediately. The barber studies him through the mirror. Who wants him? Clara Johnson sent me. The room changes. Not dramatically. A razor lowers. A newspaper folds. One man leaves through the back door. Names open doors. Some names lock them. Clara's name does both. Samuel remains standing. His hand stays near the message. 1923. A man in a gray suit enters from the rear. He does not introduce himself. Give it to me, Samuel shakes his head. Only Mr. Johnson. The man looks at the bicycle dust on Samuel's trousers. then at his pale face. "You understand who you're talking to?" "No." The answer is honest. The barber almost smiles. The man in gray does not. Samuel repeats, "Mrs. Johnson said only him." Loyalty is easy when nobody pressures it. Its value appears after the first threat. The man in gray turns toward the back room. "Wait." Samuel waits. His legs ache. He does not sit. 1934. The exhibition prepares for closing. Vendors count money, fold cloths, pack unsold goods. Clara refuses help with the remaining boxes. Ruth insists. This time, Clara allows it. Strength is not refusing assistance forever. It is knowing when refusal becomes pride. The damaged pastries are carried to the church kitchen. The broken jars are swept into a wooden crate. The overturned table stands upright again. One repaired leg, one cracked corner. Helen wants to throw it away. Clara says no. "Send it to the bakery." "Why?" Clara looks at the split wood. "Because it still stands." Objects remember what people decide they mean. 1945. The man in gray returns. "Come." Samuel follows him through the back room. A door opens onto an alley. Another car waits. Not the Cadillac. A dark sedan. Samuel hesitates. The man opens the rear door. "You wanted Mr. Johnson." Samuel thinks of Clara's instruction. No detours, no added words, no fear. He places the bicycle in the trunk, then enters the car. The sedan pulls away. Harlem passes outside the window. Storefronts. Fire escapes. Men on corners. Samuel does not know where he is being taken. A messenger who knows too much becomes evidence. A messenger who knows too little becomes brave by necessity. 1956. Clara closes the cash box. The day's earnings are lower than expected. Not ruined. Lower. Ruth counts again. Clara stops her. "Once is enough. Maybe I missed something." "You didn't." Counting is how people soothe fear. Numbers appear obedient. Events do not. Clara writes the total in a ledger, then writes the value of the damaged goods beneath it. She does not calculate the difference. Money can be replaced. Public humiliation enters a different account, one without neat columns, one balanced through action. She closes the ledger. The sound is soft, final. 2007. The sedan carrying Samuel stops behind a restaurant near 145th Street. The man in gray leads him through a kitchen. Cooks step aside. A waiter opens a narrow office door. Bumpy sits behind a desk. Hat removed, jacket unbuttoned. A plate of untouched food rests beside him. Two men stand near the wall. Samuel stops. Bumpy looks at his face, then at the dust on his trousers. "Clara?" Samuel removes the folded page, places it on the desk. "She told me to give this only to you." Bumpy takes the paper. He does not open it immediately. Control begins before information does. 2018. Bumpy unfolds the message, reads once, then again. Nobody speaks. Samuel watches his eyes. Nothing changes. That is worse than anger. Bumpy places the paper flat on the desk. "Tell me." Samuel swallows. He begins at the entrance. 3 men. The stolen food. The children. The table. The revolver. He repeats Vincent's words exactly. He repeats Clara's answer exactly. Precision keeps the room from moving too fast. Bumpy listens without interruption. A man who interrupts facts is usually searching for permission. Bumpy is searching for alignment. What happened? Who saw? Who touched whom? What did not happen? 2029. Was she struck? No. Was the weapon fired? No. Did anyone from the square follow them? No. Did Clara ask for anyone to? No. Bumpy looks at the message again. Every answer narrows the road. No blood. No injury. Public threat. destroyed property, witnesses, a question of honor placed in front of an entire neighborhood. Violence is easier when facts are blurred. Here, the facts are clean. That makes the decision harder. Bumpy asks one final question. How was she when you left? Samuel remembers her beside the replacement table. She was still working. The room becomes quieter. 20:40. Bumpy leans back. His men wait. One expects an order. The other expects a name. Samuel expects anger. None arrives. Bumpy looks toward the kitchen door. Beyond it, plates move. Glasses clink. People eat. Normal life continues several rooms away. That is always the problem. War begins in private. Funerals become public. Bumpy folds Clara's note along the same lines she made. Careful. Exact. He places it inside his jacket, then looks at the two men near the wall. Find Vincent Rallo. A pause. Find the other two. Another pause. No one touches them. Not yet. 20:51. One man asks, "How many do you want?" Bumpy answers without raising his voice. 2 cars. That all? That is what I said. The man nods. Leaves. The second remains. Word will reach the Italians. It already has. You think they knew? Bumpy looks at him. The men who matter usually know after the fools act. The second man waits. What do we tell our people? Nothing. Silence can prevent panic. It can also sharpen it. Bumpy stands, buttons his jacket. The untouched food remains on the desk. Hunger disappears when the wrong account opens. 21:02. Samuel asks whether he should return to the exhibition. Bumpy looks at the clock. The square will be closing. Clara will still be there. He knows this without asking. Go home. Samuel hesitates. Mrs. Johnson may. I'll speak to my wife. The sentence is calm, private, final. Samuel nods. The man in gray leads him out. Bumpy remains beside the desk, alone now. He looks at the chair across from him, then at the place where the message had rested. There are insults a man can ignore. There are insults he can repay quietly. And there are insults performed before witnesses. Witnesses change the price. 21:13. Bumpy turns off the office lamp. He steps into the kitchen. The cooks continue working. No one asks questions. His Cadillac waits in the alley. The driver opens the door. Bumpy enters. Where? The driver asks. Bumpy looks through the windshield. Harlem lights stretch ahead. Windows. Street lamps. Store signs. Thousands of people unaware that the night has changed. Take me to the exhibition. The Cadillac moves. Not fast. Not slow. Aligned. Time is not numbers. It is alignment. Tonight, one overturned table has moved an entire city half an inch toward war, and Bumpy Johnson has not yet decided whether to move it back. 21:24. The Cadillac turns onto West 138th Street. The exhibition is almost gone. Half the tables have been folded. The musicians are packing instruments. Paper decorations move in the night wind. Street lamps replace the sun. What looked like celebration in daylight now resembles evidence. Broken glass has been removed. The stains remain. Sugar, cherries, frosting pressed into pavement. Violence always leaves something cleaning cannot reach. Bumpy sees the replacement table before he sees Clara. A wooden door resting on 2 sawhorses. White cloth. 3 unsold cakes. The original table stands beside the church wall. One leg repaired. Still standing. 21:35. Clara closes the final box. She sees the Cadillac. She does not stop working. Bumpy steps out. No men follow him into the square. That matters. A husband can arrive with concern. A boss arrives with soldiers. Tonight he needs to be the first before he becomes the second. Helen Mercer watches from the church entrance. Walter Price remains near the broken table. Ruth holds the cash box against her chest. Nobody approaches Bumpy. Nobody needs to. He walks toward Clara. His eyes move over her dress, her hands, her face, looking for damage the message may have missed. 2146. You're hurt? No. He touched you? No. The gun? Shown. Pointed? Close enough. Bumpy looks at the ruined pastries packed into church boxes, then at the repaired table. Clara says nothing more. She knows the questions are not distrust. They are structure. Facts first. Emotion later. A man who reverses that order gives anger control of the room. Bumpy touches the cracked corner of the original table. The wood shifts slightly beneath his hand. Not broken enough to discard. Not whole enough to forget. Objects make good witnesses. They do not exaggerate. 2157. Clara tells him everything, from Vincent's arrival to the stolen peach, the child's bear, the musicians, the first pastry. The second, the cake touched with one finger, the order to step aside, the table rising, the revolver. She speaks without drama. Drama makes facts easier to dismiss. Precision makes them expensive. Bumpy listens. He does not interrupt. Walter notices his hands. Still. Too still. Anger that moves can be measured. Anger held in place becomes architecture. When Clara finishes, Bumpy asks one question. What did the others do? One laughed. And the quiet one? He tried to stop him. 2208. Bumpy turns toward Walter. You saw it? All of it. Same account? Walter nods. The quiet one warned him twice. Before the gun? Before and after. Bumpy looks toward Helen. She confirms it. No one adds more. Truth has now arrived from 3 directions. That matters. 1 witness provides a story. 3 provide a structure. Bumpy asks for the names. Vincent Rallo, Paulie Serra, Dominic Tasso. Walter learned them from a garment worker who recognized the crew. Small men travel under large names. The names protect them until someone checks the distance. 2219. Clara lifts one box. Bumpy takes it from her. She does not resist. They walk toward the Buick. Ruth follows with another. The square watches, not openly, through lowered eyes, through unfinished tasks. People want to know what Bumpy will do. They also fear knowing. Retaliation promises safety to one person and danger to everyone else. That is the arithmetic of reputation. Bumpy places the box in the trunk, then closes it gently. No slammed metal, no public oath, no command. The absence of performance unsettles the square more than shouting would. Silence leaves room for imagination. Imagination is rarely merciful. 2230. Helen approaches. Mr. Johnson, Bumpy faces her. I don't want this place used as a battlefield. Neither do I. I mean by anyone. He understands. She is not asking him to ignore what happened. She is warning him that protection can destroy what it claims to defend. Bumpy looks across the exhibition. Children's drawings still hang from the clothesline. One shows Clara behind a yellow table. No weapon, no broken glass. He studies it. Tomorrow, he says, you open again. Helen frowns. The exhibition was one day. Then make tomorrow something else. A neighborhood should not end where fear tells it to. 2241. Clara waits beside the Buick. Bumpy walks to her. You should come home. I am. I mean now. She looks at the vendors still packing. I'm not leaving them with my mess. It isn't your mess. It happened at my table. The distinction matters to her. Not guilt. Responsibility. Bumpy recognizes it because he carries the same flaw. Strong people often inherit damage they did not cause. Then others call them responsible for repairing it. He nods. I'll wait. Clara studies him. You never wait. Tonight I do. Marriage changes schedules no man admits exist. 2252. The remaining boxes are loaded. Ruth leaves with Helen. Walter takes the broken table to his print shop for repair. The musicians carry their instruments into the church. Bumpy stands beside the Cadillac. No one speaks to him. A vendor crosses the square and places a paper bag on the car hood. Inside are 6 apples. Payment refused. A message without words. We saw. We remember. Bumpy looks at the bag, then at the vendor walking away. Respect from frightened people is difficult to accept. It comes with an invoice. Sooner or later, they expect fear to be removed. No man can remove all of it. The dangerous ones pretend they can. 2303. Clara enters the Cadillac beside Bumpy. The driver pulls away. For 3 blocks, neither speaks. The city passes outside. Bars, drugstores, apartment windows, men leaning against parked cars. Bumpy looks forward. Clara looks at him. You're counting. No. You are. He does not ask what she means. She knows his silences. I am deciding what belongs to him, Bumpy says, and what belongs to the men above him. That is the problem. A fool carries his own guilt. A connected fool drags everyone holding the rope. Cut too high, and the whole structure falls. Cut too low, and the rot remains. 2314. Clara removes her folded apron from her bag. Cherry stains mark the cloth. Bumpy notices. He ruined one table. He threatened a neighborhood. He threatened me. Yes, she waits. The order matters. Bumpy turns toward her. You think I forgot? No. Then why say it? Because you're already making it larger. The words are not criticism. They are warning. Men in power often hide personal pain inside public strategy. It makes revenge appear necessary. Clara knows the difference. You do what you have to, she says. But do not call everything Harlem when part of it is me. 2325. The Cadillac stops outside their home. Bumpy opens the door for Clara. Inside, the hallway light is on. Nothing has changed. That is what makes the day feel impossible. A lamp, a coat rack, mail on a side table, ordinary objects refusing to acknowledge what happened. Clara walks toward the kitchen. Bumpy follows. She places the cash box on the counter. He places the paper bag of apples beside it. No servants, no witnesses, only husband and wife. Private rooms are where public men discover what their titles cannot repair. Clara begins washing cherry syrup from her hands. The water turns pink, then clear. 2336. Bumpy watches. You should have left. When? When they arrived. They had not done anything yet. When they took the fruit. That wasn't my table. When they stopped the music. That wasn't my decision. When they came toward you. Clara turns off the water. If every woman leaves when a loud man enters, loud men own every room. Bumpy says nothing. She dries her hands. I was afraid. The admission lands differently than the report, not weakly, honestly. Courage without fear is only ignorance. She continues. I stayed because everyone else was watching to see if they had to leave too. 2347. Bumpy looks at the stained apron. What do you want? Clara folds the towel. For him? Yes, she thinks, not theatrically, carefully. I want no one to believe they can do that again. That is not an answer. It is the only one I have. He waits. She steps closer. I do not want dead children because men decide my table was a flag. The sentence enters the room and remains there. Wars need symbols. A street, a name, a table. Once chosen, people die defending meanings they did not create. Bumpy nods once. The problem has now been named. Not revenge, containment. 2358. Clara leaves the kitchen. At the doorway, she stops. Do not ask me to forgive him. I wasn't going to. Good. She goes upstairs. Bumpy remains. He opens the cash box. Coins, bills, receipts, everything counted. Everything smaller than the damage. He removes Vincent's name from his pocket, places it beside the money. 2 accounts, one legal, one not. Business survives by knowing which ledger holds which debt. Mix them, and every decision becomes theft. Bumpy turns off the kitchen light. He does not go upstairs. Sleep requires uncertainty to become quiet. Tonight, it has become organized. 009. The telephone rings in a back room above a billiard hall in East Harlem. Vincent Rallo sits with Paulie and Dominic. Whiskey on the table. Paulie retells the story. Each version makes Vincent taller. The crowd more frightened. Clara more submissive. The gun closer to firing. Men alter stories to fit the role they wish they played. Dominic listens. He says nothing. The telephone rings again. Vincent answers. A voice asks where he has been. Vincent smiles. Handling business. A pause. The smile fades. Whose business? Vincent looks at Paulie, then at Dominic. Authority has finally arrived. 020. The caller is Carlo Fumero, a district captain, 49, disciplined, known for settling problems before senior men hear them. He does not raise his voice. That makes Vincent sit straighter. Carlo asks about the exhibition. Vincent says it was nothing. A woman got loud. A table fell. The gun stayed holstered. Dominic looks at him. The first clear lie. Carlo hears it too. Experienced men can hear missing facts. They leave different echoes. Go nowhere, Carlo says. The line goes dead. Vincent replaces the receiver. Paulie asks what happened. Vincent pours more whiskey. Nothing. Nothing is the word men use when consequences have found the address. 031. Dominic stands. Vincent looks up. Where are you going? Home. No. Dominic pauses. Vincent points toward the chair. We stay together. Paulie laughs. Nervously. Dominic sits. Not because Vincent commands him, because separation now looks like betrayal. Connected men fear enemies. Foolish men fear witnesses more. Vincent drinks. He begins explaining why the exhibition needed to be reminded, whose streets bordered whose territory. No one asked. Justification arrives when confidence begins leaking. Dominic watches the clock. Paulie watches Vincent. Vincent watches the door. 3 men in one room, each waiting for a different danger. 042. Across Harlem, 2 of Bumpy's men enter a 24-hour diner. They take a booth near the kitchen. A bookkeeper named Ellis Morrow waits with coffee. Ellis knows garment routes, collections, who answers to whom. He has never carried a gun. Information is his weapon. Paper is colder than steel. One of Bumpy's men slides Vincent's name across the table. Ellis reads it. Rallo. Who owns him? Nobody owns him. The man waits. Ellis corrects himself. He answers to Carlo Fumero. And Fumero answers upward. How far? Ellis looks toward the waitress. Far enough that mistakes become meetings. 053. Ellis explains the structure. Vincent collects from small garment shops, sometimes trucks, never docks, never unions. He has influence in 3 blocks and speaks as if he owns 3 boroughs. Paulie is a driver. Dominic handles numbers and occasionally protection. Neither is important alone. Together, they look like a crew. Crews create the illusion of rank. Rank creates courage in men who have none privately. "Did the bosses send them?" Bumpy's man asks. Ellis shakes his head. "No boss sends 3 boys to overturn cakes." The answer matters. This was not policy. It was appetite. That makes it easier to isolate and more dangerous to mishandle. 1:04, Bumpy receives the report in his study. No jacket now. Shirt sleeves rolled once. A map of Harlem rests on the desk. Not because the problem needs geography. Because geography prevents emotion from pretending everything is connected. Vincent's collection area lies outside the exhibition district. No official dispute. No contested business. No order. Bumpy places a pencil mark beside Carlo Fumero's name. Then another beside Vincent. Different sizes. Different responsibilities. Power is not only knowing who acted, it is knowing who could have prevented it, and who will be forced to answer after. Bumpy closes the map. The street does not need an army. It needs a boundary restored. 1:15. One of his men asks, "Do we speak to Fumero first?" Bumpy considers it. Speaking first looks cautious. It also gives Vincent time. Does Fumero know? He called them. Then he knows enough. What if he moves them? He won't. How do you know? Because moving them admits fear before he knows the price. Men in organizations protect structure before people. Carlo will keep the 3 together, not out of loyalty, for control. That helps Bumpy. Enemies become predictable when their reputation is trapped in the room with them. Bumpy writes one instruction: watch. No contact, no threat, no disappearance. Not yet. 1:26. At the billiard hall, Carlo Fumero enters. Dark overcoat, gray hat, no visible weapon. Vincent stands. Paulie follows. Dominic remains seated for 1 second too long. Carlo notices. He removes his gloves, places them on the table. "You showed a gun," Vincent answers too quickly. "I never aimed it." That was not the question. Paulie looks down. Dominic watches Carlo. The room has found a real center now. Vincent begins explaining the crowd, the insults, the woman's tone. Carlo listens until the words become noise. Then he slaps Vincent once, not hard, corrective, public enough for 2 witnesses. 1:37. Vincent touches his cheek, shock before anger. Carlo points toward the chair. "Sit." Vincent sits. The command is obeyed immediately. That tells everyone what the earlier performance was worth. Carlo asks Dominic for the full account. Vincent interrupts. Carlo looks at him. Silence returns. Dominic tells the truth. The food, the table, the gun, Clara's words, the crowd. He does not protect himself. He does not accuse Vincent. Facts are protection when lies have already failed. Carlo listens, then asks one question. "Did anyone say Johnson's wife?" Paulie nods. Carlo closes his eyes. Rank finally understands the size of the mistake. 1:48, Carlo walks to the window. Below, East Harlem remains awake. A taxi passes. Men leave a card game. Nothing outside knows that 3 young men have placed 2 organizations near collision. Carlo turns. "You stay here." Vincent rises. "I'm not a prisoner." Carlo looks at him. "No." A pause. "Prisoners are protected by rules." Vincent sits again. Carlo tells Dominic to disconnect the telephone. Paulie asks whether they should leave through the rear. Carlo ignores him. He puts on his gloves. Every movement deliberate. Discipline is not calmness. It is anger assigned a job. Carlo leaves to find someone above him. 1:59 Bumpy stands at his bedroom door. Clara is awake. He knows by her breathing. He enters quietly. She does not turn. "You found them?" "Yes." Did they act alone? Yes. She opens her eyes. That is better. Not much. It is better than an order. Bumpy removes his watch, places it on the nightstand. Clara looks at the ceiling. What happens now? They learn the difference between being connected and being protected. She turns toward him. That sounds like something men say before deciding another man's life. Bumpy does not deny it. Language often arrives first to prepare the conscience. 2:10. Clara sits up. I will not tell you what to do. Bumpy waits. But you will tell me what not to do. Yes. He almost smiles. Almost. She continues. Do not turn every Italian shop into an enemy. I won't. Do not send boys to fight men they have never met. I won't. Do not make the neighborhood pay for what happened to me. I won't. She studies him. 3 promises, all precise. None include Vincent. Absence can be louder than refusal. Clara hears it. She lies back down. Then I have nothing else to say. Bumpy remains standing. Some agreements are built around the sentence nobody asks for. 2:21. Bumpy returns to the study. A telephone call waits. Carlo Fumero. Bumpy lifts the receiver. Neither man greets the other. Carlo speaks first. I heard there was trouble. You heard correctly. 3 young men lost judgment. One lost more than judgment. Carlo pauses. The line carries distant static. We can discuss repayment. This is not a bakery invoice. I know. Do you? Another pause. Power speaks through what men refuse to name. Carlo finally says, no one authorized it. Bumpy looks at Vincent's name on the desk. Authorization does not clean what everyone saw. 2:32, Carlo lowers his voice. They are with me. Then you should have kept them with you. The words land cleanly. No insult. No escape. Carlo breathes once through his nose. I can bring Vincent. To apologize? If that settles it. Bumpy looks toward the dark window. Would it settle it for you? Carlo does not answer. Men can negotiate money, territory, roots. Apology becomes difficult when an entire neighborhood watch the insult. A private apology repairs private damage. Public fear requires something people can believe without seeing everything. Bumpy says, keep them where they are. The line goes quiet. Carlo understands the hidden message. Bumpy already knows. 2:43. Carlo asks, is that a threat? No. What is it? Advice. Advice from a powerful man is often a threat with better manners. Carlo hears the distinction. He also hears that Bumpy has not declared war. That matters. War begins when men stop leaving doors unlocked. One door remains open. Carlo says, the people above me will want to know. They should. What should I tell them? The truth. That Vincent embarrassed everyone. Bumpy's voice remains calm. He embarrassed himself. A pause. He threatened my wife. Another pause. That concerns me. The separation is deliberate. Syndicate insult. Personal honor. 2 accounts, not yet combined. 2:54 Carlo says, give me until morning. For what? To prevent this from spreading. Bumpy looks at the clock. Time is not numbers. It is alignment. Morning gives Carlo space to speak upward. It also gives Vincent space to disappear. Bumpy calculates both. Until 9, Carlo exhales. That isn't much. It is more than he gave her. The line ends. Bumpy places the receiver down. He has granted time, not mercy. Men often confuse the two because both delay pain. Only one intends to reduce it. The other merely arranges the room. 3:05. Bumpy's men continue watching the billiard hall. One car at the front, one in the alley. No headlights, no conversation. Inside, Vincent paces. Paulie drinks. Dominic sits beneath the silent telephone. They do not know the building is surrounded. That is useful. A trapped man behaves differently when he knows the walls are closed. Vincent still believes he may walk out. He keeps adjusting his tie, keeps checking his reflection, keeps rehearsing explanations. Vanity prepares speeches while consequence prepares transportation. Outside, the watchers write down every visitor. No one enters. No one leaves. The night becomes a ledger. 3:16. Carlo enters a private social club near Pleasant Avenue. The front room is empty. A man behind the bar lets him through. Upstairs, 4 older Italians sit around a card table. No cards are being played. Carlo removes his hat. He reports the incident. No embellishment, no protection. The oldest man asks whether the woman was injured. No. Shot? No. Touched? No. Then why are we awake? Carlo answers carefully. Because the square watched. The older man leans back. Now he understands. Blood creates police. Witnesses create reputation. Organizations fear both. Reputation is harder to bury. 3:27. The men discuss options. Money for the bakery. A public apology. Vincent transferred out of the district. Vincent beaten by his own people. Each solution repairs part of the damage. None repairs the image of a gun raised at Bumpy Johnson's wife. One man says they should refuse outside interference. Another says Vincent is too small to justify a conflict. The oldest listens. He does not mention loyalty. Loyalty is expensive. It is rarely spent on men who create unnecessary invoices. Finally, he asks, "Has Johnson moved?" Carlo answers, "Not yet." The room becomes still. A man who has not moved may still be choosing where to strike. 3:38. The oldest man tells Carlo to keep Vincent contained. No streets, no calls, no drinking, Carlo nods. And Johnson? Give him the morning. What do we offer? Nothing yet. Carlo frowns. The oldest man explains. Offer too soon, we admit Vincent acted for us. Offer too late, Johnson acts for himself. That is why mourning exists. Time does not heal power. It reveals which side understands it. Carlo replaces his hat. Before leaving, he asks whether anyone higher should be informed. The oldest man looks toward the closed curtains. By sunrise, they already will be. Large organizations do not sleep. They only lower their voices. 3:49 Bumpy writes 3 columns on a sheet of paper. Vincent, Paulie, Dominic. Under Vincent, table, weapon, threat. Under Paulie, theft, laughter, encouragement. Under Dominic, presence, warning, restraint. Men standing together are not always equally guilty. Crowds simplify. Power should not. Punishing all 3 equally would be easy. Easy punishment looks strong from far away. Up close, it reveals laziness. Bumpy draws a line beneath Dominic's name, then another beneath Paulie's. Vincent remains alone above the others. The decision is not complete. The shape is beginning to appear. 4 o'clock, dawn is still distant. Clara sleeps upstairs. Bumpy opens the drawer beneath his desk. Inside are old receipts, letters, a photograph, a small revolver. He ignores the weapon, removes a key. The key belongs to a storage garage near the river. Few people know it exists. Fewer know what is kept there. Cars, tools, rope, chains used for towing, a cast iron weight from an abandoned gymnasium. Objects have ordinary purposes until men place them beside extraordinary intentions. Bumpy holds the key, then returns it to the drawer. Not yet. A decision imagined is not the same as a decision made. 4:11. At the billiard hall, Vincent demands the telephone be reconnected. Dominic refuses. Vincent pushes him. Dominic does not move. Paulie steps between them. Carlos said, "Wait." Vincent turns on him. "You afraid?" Paulie says no too quickly. Fear exposed becomes contagious. Vincent begins blaming Clara, her tone, her stare, the crowd, the child, the music, everything except himself. Responsibility is the last room a coward enters. Dominic finally speaks. "You pulled the gun." Vincent stares at him. "I protected us." From a cake table? Paulie looks away. The truth has entered the room. No one can make it leave. 4:22. Vincent strikes Dominic. One punch. Dominic absorbs it. Does not answer. That frightens Vincent more than retaliation. Dominic wipes blood from his lip. "You keep making witnesses." The sentence stops the room. Vincent looks at Paulie, then at the disconnected telephone, then at the door. He understands finally that the two men beside him may live by telling the truth. Self-preservation changes friendships quickly. He reaches beneath his jacket. Dominic moves first. He catches Vincent's wrist. Paulie grabs the other arm. No gun appears. For 10 seconds, the crew becomes what it always was. 3 frightened men holding one another upright. 4:33. Outside, Bumpy's watchers see movement through the upstairs window. Shadows. A chair falling. Then stillness. They do not enter. Orders matter most when instincts disagree. One watcher wants to take them now. The other says no. Why wait? Because he said. That all? That is enough. Discipline is obedience before explanation. The first man settles back. Rain begins lightly. Drops strike the windshield. The street shines beneath lamps. Inside the hall, 3 men sit farther apart. Outside, 2 cars remain invisible. The city prepares for morning. Morning does not bring clarity. It only makes hidden positions easier to see. 4:44. Bumpy telephones Walter Price. Walter answers after several rings. His voice is thick with sleep. Bumpy asks about the table. "I can fix it. Will the crack show?" "Yes." "Good." Walter wakes fully. "You want it hidden?" "No." Bumpy looks at the sheet with 3 names. "Bring it back to the square tomorrow." "There is no exhibition tomorrow." "There is now." Walter understands. The table will stand again. Not restored to innocence, restored to use. That distinction matters. A scar hidden becomes shame. A scar working becomes evidence of survival. Bumpy hangs up. The first public response is decided. Not blood. Not yet. A table. 4:55. Bumpy calls Helen next. She answers immediately. Perhaps she has not slept. He tells her to reopen the square at noon. For what? A neighborhood sale? On one night's notice? Yes. People will be afraid. Yes. Helen waits for more. Bumpy gives none. She understands the purpose. The crowd must return before rumor owns the space. Fear grows when locations remain abandoned. Open doors interrupt mythology. Helen asks whether armed men will be present. No, she is surprised. None? Not where children can see. The distinction is careful. Protection should exist. It does not need to become decoration. 5:06. Helen agrees. Before ending the call, she asks, "Will Clara come?" Bumpy looks toward the ceiling. That is her decision. It is the correct answer, not a useful one. Helen says, "People will watch her." I know. If she does not come, they will understand. No. Bumpy's voice hardens slightly. They will imagine. Imagination builds cowardice out of absence. But Clara is not a symbol he owns. Bumpy knows this. Power teaches men to position others. Marriage punishes the habit. He ends the call. For the first time that night, he feels tired. Fatigue is the body asking for mercy. Events rarely answer. But for 5:17, Bumpy goes upstairs. Clara is awake again. He sits at the edge of the bed. The square opens at noon. She looks at him. You arranged that. Yes. You want me there. I want the table there. That is not what I asked. Bumpy waits. Clara studies his face. She sees the calculation, the need for public continuity, the danger of her absence. She also sees the part he refuses to say. He wants the neighborhood to know she was not broken. Clara turns toward the window. I'll decide after breakfast. No promise, no refusal. Control offered freely is stronger than control taken. Bumpy nods. 5:28. Downstairs, the telephone rings again. Carlo. His voice is lower. The senior men know. No decision yet. He asks whether Vincent remains untouched. Bumpy says yes. The answer relieves him. Only slightly. Carlo offers repairs, compensation, a written apology. Bumpy rejects none. Accepts none. What do you want? Carlo asks. Bumpy looks at the first light appearing behind buildings. I want the man who raised the gun. Silence. Carlo expected it. Expectation does not reduce the cost. For how long? Bumpy answers, long enough. The phrase carries no measurement. That is intentional. Uncertainty is leverage when clocks stop helping. 5:39. Carlo says, I cannot hand over one of my men without terms. He was your man when he collected. He is still my man. Then his judgment represents yours. Carlo hears the trap. Protect Vincent, inherit the insult. Abandon Vincent, reveal weakness. Organizations survive by choosing which appearance costs less. Carlo asks, what happens to the other two? Depends what they do. They were there. So were 50 neighbors. Presence is not equal to action. Carlo knows this. He respects the distinction, despite himself. Bumpy continues. Paulie and Dominic carry a message. To who? To everyone who thinks Vincent acted with permission. The road toward containment becomes visible. 5:50. Carlo refuses, not loudly, firmly. I will not have my people used to threaten senior men. Bumpy looks at Clara's stained apron resting over a chair. They already used my wife to entertain a crowd. That was Vincent. Then stop saying my people when the bill arrives. The line remains quiet. Carlo breathes. His authority has been separated from Vincent by force of logic. Now he must choose whether to reconnect it. Bumpy gives him until 9. No extension, no bargaining. If he runs, Bumpy says, I treat it as your decision. The call ends. Morning now has a deadline. Deadlines turn discussion into pressure. 6:01. Carlo returns to the billiard hall. He finds Vincent awake. Paulie asleep in a chair. Dominic near the window. Blood dried at his lip. Carlo sees the overturned chair, the disconnected telephone, the new distance between the men. What happened? No one answers. Carlo looks at Dominic. Did he pull the gun again? Dominic says. Tried. Vincent rises. They jumped me. Carlo ignores him. He tells Paulie and Dominic to go downstairs. Vincent blocks the door. No one leaves. Carlo removes his coat, folds it over a chair. A calm man preparing to work is more frightening than an angry man reaching for violence. 6:12. Carlo punches Vincent in the stomach. One strike, measured. Vincent folds. Carlo catches him by the collar. You made me answer for you. Vincent gasps. Carlo pushes him into the chair. You made men above me wake. Another breath. You made Johnson separate you from us. Vincent looks up. Fear finally replaces performance. What does he want? Carlo studies him. The truth is, he has not said enough. That is worse. A clear threat has borders. An incomplete one expands in every direction. Vincent asks whether the syndicate will protect him. Carlo says nothing. Silence provides the answer without forcing anyone to own it. 6:23. Downstairs, Paulie asks Dominic what will happen. Dominic lights a cigarette. His hands are steady. He will be traded. For what? For quiet. Paulie shakes his head. They can't. They can. We're connected. Dominic exhales smoke. Connected is not protected. The lesson arrives late. That is why it is expensive. Paulie begins blaming Vincent. Dominic stops him. You laughed. Paulie looks down. The stolen bear rests behind the bar. He forgot to take it home. Dust still marks the fur. An object from the square. A witness carried into the wrong territory. Paulie looks at it. For the first time, he appears ashamed. 6:34. Carlo telephones the social club. The older men are still there. He reports Bumpy's demand. The room debates again. One man calls it unacceptable. Another asks what alternative exists. War over Vincent would require explaining Vincent. No explanation improves him. Money does not repair the image. An apology may look forced. Sending him away invites pursuit. Keeping him invites attack. The oldest man asks whether Bumpy threatened the organization. Carlo answers honestly, no. Only Vincent and whoever helps him run. The oldest man understands the discipline. Bumpy is drawing a narrow line. Refusing that line may widen it. He tells Carlo to wait. The decision must travel higher. 6:45. Bumpy dresses for the day. Dark suit, gray tie, white shirt. Clara enters the room already dressed. Pale dress, no apron. He looks at her. The square? Yes. He does not thank her. Gratitude would make her decision sound like service to him. It is not. She fastens her watch. Will he be there? No. You're certain? Yes. She meets his eyes. You've already surrounded him. Not a question. Bumpy adjusts his cuff. Clara knows his methods without knowing his details. Marriage is proximity to decisions never fully explained. She says, do not let the crowd see what comes next. Bumpy answers, they will see enough. 6:56. Breakfast is simple. Coffee, toast, eggs. Neither eats much. Clara opens the bakery ledger. She lists what must be replaced. Glass jars, wooden stands, cake covers, ingredients. Bumpy watches her write. You don't have to reopen today. I know. You should wait. No. The answer surprises him. Clara closes the ledger. If the bakery stays closed, they will say I am afraid. You are afraid. Yes. She looks at him. Fear is not a schedule. That line belongs to her, not him. Bumpy nods. Some people resist fear by confronting it. Others resist by opening on time. 7:07. At Johnson's confectionery, Ruth arrives early. The front window is intact. Inside, the ovens are cold. Clara unlocks the door. She turns the sign to open. 2 customers already wait. Neither usually comes this early. They buy bread they do not need, cookies for children still asleep, a pie for no occasion. Clara accepts every order without comment. Support is dignity when disguised as business. Bumpy remains outside. He watches the first customer leave, then the second. The street has received its first answer. The bakery opens. The table will return. The gun did not control morning. 7:18. Bumpy's men report from the billiard hall. All 3 remain inside. Carlo arrived. No one has left. Another vehicle now waits 2 blocks away. Italian, not police, not Bumpies. Both sides watching the same building. Surveillance becomes negotiation when nobody enters. Bumpy asks whether weapons are visible. No. Whether Vincent has changed clothes. No. Whether food entered. Coffee only. Details matter. A man preparing to flee changes shoes. Takes cash. Requests food. Vincent has done none. He still believes someone else controls the outcome. Belief delays escape. For now, that helps. 7:29. Carlo sits across from Vincent. No conversation. Paulie and Dominic remain downstairs. The telephone rings. Carlo answers. He listens for almost a minute, then says, "Understood." He hangs up. Vincent leans forward. "What?" Carlo puts on his coat. The decision has arrived from above. Not approval, not protection. Permission to prevent wider conflict. Organizations use careful language when abandoning someone. Carlo opens the door. Paulie appears. "Bring Dominic." Vincent stands. "Where are we going?" Carlo looks at him. "You are staying." The room seems to shrink around Vincent. Abandonment does not require a farewell. Only an open door others are allowed to cross. 7:40. Vincent reaches for Carlo. Carlo's hand closes around his wrist. The movement is quick, professional. "No." One word. Vincent freezes. Carlo releases him. Paulie and Dominic enter. Carlo gives them instructions. They will accompany him. They will answer questions. They will not lie. Vincent looks at Paulie. Paulie cannot meet his eyes. He looks at Dominic. Dominic does. No pleasure, no apology, only distance. The crew ends without ceremony. 3 men entered the exhibition together. By morning, one has become an account the others must help close. Vincent laughs once. The sound is empty. "You think Johnson lets you walk?" Dominic answers. "That depends on the truth." 7:51. Carlo leaves with Paulie and Dominic. 2 Italian cars follow. Bumpy's watchers report the movement. One remains on Vincent. The other follows Carlo. Bumpy receives the message outside the bakery. Clara is inside serving customers. He looks through the glass. She does not look back. The deadline has not arrived. But the shape of the answer has. Carlo is separating the witnesses, leaving Vincent contained. The syndicate has not surrendered him officially. It has stopped standing in the doorway. That distinction protects everyone's pride. Pride often requires architecture, a side entrance, an unlocked gate, a guard who decides not to see. 8:02. Bumpy enters a back room behind the pharmacy where Samuel works. Samuel is sorting invoices. He looks surprised. Bumpy places money on the counter. Samuel steps back. "No, it is for the bicycle. Nothing happened to it. For the day you lost." Samuel understands. Accepting payment makes the act business. Refusing makes it loyalty. He refuses again. Bumpy removes the money. Not offended. Men should be allowed to choose the meaning of their courage. He asks whether Samuel told anyone about the route. "No." "Good." Samuel hesitates. "What happens to them?" Bumpy looks at him. "You delivered the message. That is all? That is enough." 8:13. Carlo arrives at a small restaurant before opening. Bumpy waits in the rear booth. Paulie and Dominic enter behind Carlo. No visible guards. No weapons on the table. Coffee is poured. Nobody drinks. Carlo sits. The younger men remain standing. Bumpy looks at Dominic's split lip. "What happened?" Dominic answers. "Vincent." "Why?" "I told the truth." Bumpy looks at Paulie. "And you?" Paulie swallows. "I laughed. A simple confession. No excuse." Bumpy lets silence hold them. Guilt explained too quickly often becomes negotiation. He wants facts, not performances. The same rule applies to fear. 824. Bumpy asks Paulie to describe the exhibition. Paulie begins with Vincent. Bumpy stops him. Begin at the gate. Paulie does. The coin, the fruit, the bear, the music, the pastries, the table, the gun. His voice breaks near the end. Bumpy does not comfort him. Fear is useful when it finally points toward responsibility. Then Dominic tells the same story. Details align. One difference. Paulie says Vincent raised the gun toward Clara. Dominic says the barrel never fully leveled. Bumpy notes both. Truth can disagree in angles without disagreeing in meaning. The weapon was shown. The threat was understood. That is enough. 835. Carlo speaks. They acted without instruction. Bumpy looks at him. I know. The senior men do not approve. I know. They will pay for the damage. Bumpy says nothing. Carlo continues. Vincent will be removed from collections. Still nothing. Transferred. Bumpy finally responds. To another neighborhood? Carlo pauses. The flaw is exposed. Moving a reckless man does not remove recklessness. It only changes victims. Bumpy leans back. You are offering distance, Carlo answers. I am offering peace. Peace for who? The question has no comfortable answer. A quiet street can still contain an unpaid debt. 846. Bumpy turns to Paulie. Why did you laugh? Paulie looks at Carlo. Carlo says nothing. At first it was funny. What was? The way people moved. Bumpy waits. Paulie lowers his head. Then it wasn't. When? When the gun came out. Not when he took the child's bear? Paulie says nothing. Not when he ruined food? Nothing. Only when danger reached you? Paulie's face tightens. Cowardice is often delayed empathy. People recognize cruelty once it becomes unpredictable. Bumpy turns to Dominic. Why did you stay? Dominic answers. Leaving would have made him worse. A practical truth, not a noble one. 857. Bumpy asks Dominic why he warned Vincent. Families. Only that? Too many witnesses. The answer is cold, honest. Bumpy respects honesty more than borrowed virtue. You were worried about consequences. Yes, not Clara. Dominic looks at the table. Not at first. And after? Dominic raises his eyes. After the gun, yes. Growth arriving late still has value. It does not erase the beginning. Bumpy studies both men. Paulie followed cruelty because laughter felt safe. Dominic followed because calculation told him to stay close. Neither created the moment. Both carried it. The punishment should remember the difference. So should the message. 9:08. The deadline passes. No one announces it. Bumpy looks at Carlo. Carlo removes a folded envelope, places it on the table. Inside is no money. A short written statement. Vincent Rallo acted without authorization. The syndicate claims no dispute with Johnson or the Harlem exhibition. No promise of surrender. No apology. No threat. Careful language. Expensive ink. Paper is colder than steel. It can also be thinner. Bumpy reads the statement once, then folds it. This protects your structure. Carlo replies, that is my responsibility. Bumpy places it inside his jacket. And mine is to protect what he threatened. Two responsibilities now face each other. 9:19. Carlo asks what Bumpy intends. Bumpy looks at Paulie and Dominic. They come with me. Carlo's jaw tightens. For how long? Long enough to carry a message back. The phrase returns. Carlo understands now. They are not hostages. They are witnesses. That may be worse. A hostage carries fear. A witness carries detail. Detail survives denial. Carlo asks whether Vincent will return. Bumpy answers with another question. Did he return what he took from the child? Carlo says nothing. The stolen bear still sits behind the billiard hall bar. A small object, a complete judgment. Men reveal themselves most clearly in what they consider too small to repair. 9:30. Paulie speaks suddenly. I'll get the bear. Everyone looks at him. Bumpy says, you should. Paulie nods. A task. A chance to do one thing correctly. Bumpy tells Dominic to go with him. Carlo stands. I go too. No. Carlo's expression hardens. Bumpy continues. You already delivered your message. The words are not dismissive. They separate the roles. Carlo represents the organization. Paulie and Dominic represent the event. Vincent represents himself. Mixing them again would recreate the problem. Carlo understands. He does not like it. Understanding and agreement rarely arrive together. 9:41. Bumpy leaves the restaurant. Paulie and Dominic follow in a second car. No restraints, no guns visible. They drive toward East Harlem. Carlo remains behind. He watches through the window. A waiter clears untouched coffee. The meeting ends without agreement spoken aloud. That is how many wars are prevented. Not with peace, with precise dissatisfaction. Carlo telephones the social club. He reports that Bumpy has taken the two witnesses. The oldest man asks, by force? No? Then they went? Yes. Good. Carlo is surprised. The older man explains. Men walking voluntarily can return with a message. Dead men only return with police. 9:52. The billiard hall door opens. Paulie enters first. Dominic behind him. Vincent is upstairs. One of Bumpy's men waits near the entrance. No words. Paulie finds the stuffed bear behind the bar. Dusty. One ear bent. He brushes it with his sleeve. A child's prize. Taken for laughter. Carried as proof. Now heavier than before. Dominic looks toward the stairs. Vincent hears movement. He calls down. Paulie? No answer. He appears at the landing, sees them, then sees the man near the door. His face changes. The future has finally entered the building. 10:03. Vincent comes downstairs slowly. He looks at Paulie, then Dominic. Carlo send you? Dominic answers. No. Vincent sees the bear. He laughs. You came for that? Paulie holds it tighter. Bumpy enters behind them. No announcement. No raised voice. Vincent stops laughing. The room rearranges itself around one man. Power does not always enter loudly. Sometimes it simply removes every other possibility. Bumpy looks at Vincent, then at the telephone wire hanging loose, the overturned chair, the dried blood on Dominic's lip, evidence of a night spent collapsing. Vincent Rallo. Vincent straightens. He wants dignity now. Too late. 10:14. Vincent says, Mr. Johnson. Bumpy walks toward the card table. He places Clara's folded note beside an empty glass. No one sits. You know my wife's name? Vincent answers. I do now. Did you know it yesterday? A pause. Yes. The lie arrives. Dominic looks at him. Paulie looks down. Bumpy asks again. Did you know? Vincent changes the answer. I heard someone say it. When? Before we left. The room listens. Truth is not being discovered. It is being peeled from a man who believed layers would protect him. Each correction makes the final fact uglier. 10:25. Bumpy points toward Paulie. He says you knew at the table. Vincent turns. Paulie's face collapses. He never said that. The test is simple. Vincent answers too quickly. He's lying. Bumpy looks at Paulie. Paulie understands. Vincent is willing to sacrifice him without knowing what was said. Loyalty ends where panic begins. Paulie speaks. I never told him that. Vincent realizes the trap. Too late. Bumpy looks at Dominic. When did he know? After the table. Before the gun? Dominic nods. Yes. The room becomes still. The gun was not ignorance. It was escalation after recognition. That changes the account. 10:36. Vincent raises both hands. People were watching. Bumpy's face remains unreadable. That is your explanation? She embarrassed me. You arrived embarrassed. Vincent's mouth closes. The sentence lands deeper than a blow. Bumpy steps closer. You took food from people who work. You stole from a child. You stopped music you did not pay for. You overturned what you could not make. And when a woman remained standing, you needed a gun. Each line removes mythology. No territory, no honor, no syndicate purpose. Only a small man using a large name. Vincent looks toward the door. There is no road left there. 10:47. Bumpy asks about the gun. Vincent says it was for protection. From who? No answer. The baker? No answer. The child? Paulie closes his eyes. The musicians? Vincent looks away. A weapon without a threat reveals its real purpose. Performance. Bumpy holds out his hand. Give it to me. Vincent hesitates. One of Bumpy's men shifts his weight. That is enough. Vincent removes the revolver, places it in Bumpy's palm. The nickel finish catches light. Clean. No marks. A gun purchased to be seen. Bumpy opens the cylinder. Loaded. 6 rounds. Intent does not require a fired shot, only readiness. 10:58. Bumpy closes the cylinder, hands the revolver to his man. Vincent watches it leave. He appears smaller without it. Not physically, structurally. Some men mistake objects for authority. Remove the object, and the illusion goes with it. Bumpy tells Paulie to place the bear on the table. Paulie does. The child's prize beside Clara's note. One soft, one folded, both evidence. Bumpy looks at Vincent. You will come with us. Vincent asks, where? No answer. He looks at Paulie, then Dominic. They already know they are coming too, not as prisoners, not as friends, as witnesses to the bill. 11:09. Outside, 3 cars wait. No crowd, no police, no visible weapons. Vincent steps toward the first car. Bumpy stops him. Second, Vincent looks at him. Bumpy enters the first Cadillac alone. Paulie and Dominic enter the third. Vincent sits between 2 men in the second. Separation is deliberate. Men rehearse lies together. Isolation forces each to hear his own version. The cars pull away. East Harlem disappears behind them. They head north, not toward Clara's bakery, not toward the exhibition. Vincent watches street signs, trying to calculate. Fear begins counting when control disappears. Counting is how people soothe uncertainty. Today, the numbers will not help him. 11:20. The convoy passes the reopened square. Workers carry tables through the gate. Walter brings back Clara's repaired table. The crack remains visible. Helen directs placement. Children chase one another near the wall. The fair has become a neighborhood market. Different name, same ground. Bumpy sees Clara arrive with Ruth. She steps from the Buick, looks toward the passing cars. The Cadillac windows reflect sunlight. She cannot see inside, but she knows. Bumpy does not turn his head. She does not wave. Their eyes never meet. Still, the moment is understood. The public answer begins with the table. The private one continues north. 11:31. Vincent sees the square through the car window. The repaired table. The white cloth. Clara carrying a cake stand. His face changes. Not remorse, confusion. He expected abandonment. Broken things should remain broken. That is the logic of men who destroy. Rebuilding insults them because it proves their action was not final. One of the men beside Vincent notices. "You thought they'd close?" Vincent says nothing. The car continues. Behind them, Paulie holds the stuffed bear. Dominic watches the road. Ahead, Bumpy sits alone. 3 cars, 3 purposes. 1 destination, no passenger has been told. 11:42. The city thins. Brick gives way to warehouses. Warehouses give way to open road. The river appears between buildings. Vincent finally asks again, "Where are we going?" The man beside him says, "You already asked." That wasn't an answer. It was the only one. Vincent looks at the door handle. Child lock. He looks at the opposite side. Another man. Escape is no longer a plan, only a reflex. Fear becomes honest when every exit is measured. In the 3rd car, Paulie asks Dominic whether they will return. Dominic looks at the bear. "You will. And you?" "I think so." "Vincent?" Dominic does not answer. 11:53. The convoy turns toward an old storage garage near the waterfront. A rusted sign hangs above the entrance. No company name, only faded numbers. The first Cadillac enters, then the second, then the third. The metal door closes behind them. Inside are 2 parked trucks, tool cabinets, coiled rope, chains, a workbench, a large canvas-covered object near the far wall. Ordinary equipment arranged in an extraordinary silence. Vincent steps from the car. He looks around. No blood, no chair, no obvious threat. That unsettles him more. Violence announced gives the mind somewhere to stand. Uncertainty removes the floor. 12:04. Bumpy removes his hat, places it on the workbench. Paulie and Dominic stand together. Vincent remains between 2 men. Bumpy tells everyone to empty their pockets. Wallets, coins, matches, a pocket knife, car keys. Paulie places the bear carefully beside the items. Vincent refuses. One of the men looks at Bumpy. Bumpy says nothing. The man searches Vincent. Cash, cigarettes, a silver lighter, a small St. Christopher medal, no second weapon. The medal rests beside the revolver. Protection in one pocket, threat in another. Men often carry contradictions without feeling the weight, until someone empties their pockets. 12:15. Bumpy looks at Paulie. "You will return the bear." Paulie nods. To the child. "Yes." "You will apologize to her mother." "Yes." "No excuses." Paulie swallows. "Yes." Bumpy turns to Dominic. "You will tell Carlo everything that happens here." Dominic meets his eyes. "Everything?" "Everything you see." Vincent looks between them. The meaning arrives. These men are leaving. He may not. Bumpy faces him last. "You will explain why the gun came out." Vincent says, "I already did." "No." Bumpy's voice is quiet. "You explained who you wanted everyone to think you were. That is not the same thing." 12:26. Vincent looks toward the canvas-covered object. Wind presses against the metal garage door. A low vibration. The river is close. He hears gulls, water against pilings. The environment begins speaking before anyone else does. Vincent's breathing changes. Bumpy notices. Fear has found the correct vocabulary. He walks to the workbench, removes Clara's note, places it beside the bear, then removes Carlo's statement. 3 documents, Clara's facts, the witness's evidence, the syndicate's distance. A man becomes isolated long before he is physically alone. First, every institution removes its name from his behavior. Then consequences can address him directly. 12:37. Bumpy tells Vincent to read Carlo's statement. Vincent does. His lips move. The syndicate claims no dispute, no authorization, no protection promised. The paper does not say abandonment. It does not need to. Cheap coffee, expensive ink. Paper is colder than steel because it does not hate the person it condemns. Vincent lowers the page. They can't do this, Bumpy asks. Do what? Pretend I'm alone. Bumpy looks at Paulie, then Dominic, then the two men who transported him. You were alone when you raised the gun. Vincent shakes his head. They laughed. Bumpy answers, laughter is not permission. 12:48, Vincent points at Paulie. He was with me. Paulie flinches. Bumpy says, he will carry what belongs to him. Then Vincent points at Dominic. He didn't stop me. Dominic's jaw tightens. Bumpy answers, he tried. Not enough. The sentence is almost convincing, because it contains truth. Dominic did not leave, did not disarm him sooner, did not protect Clara. Guilt can be shared. Responsibility cannot be diluted until no one owns it. Bumpy steps closer to Vincent. They carry their part. You carry yours. The words divide the room cleanly. No collective punishment. No escape through company. 12:59, Bumpy pulls the canvas from the object near the wall. A heavy cast-iron weight sits on a low wooden cart. Old. Round. A thick metal ring fixed through its center, used once in a gymnasium, later used for towing, perhaps for other purposes. No one explains. No one touches it. The sight is enough. Vincent stares. Paulie stops breathing for a moment. Dominic looks toward the river-facing wall. Objects become threats when imagination completes their purpose. Bumpy lets the canvas fall beside the cart. No speech. No demonstration. Silence here is not the absence of sound. It is a command. 13:10. Vincent backs away. One step. The men behind him do not move. He begins speaking quickly. Money, names, routes, collections, people he can betray. Every secret becomes negotiable once a man believes time has shortened. Bumpy listens, not interested. Vincent misunderstands. He offers more. A truck schedule, a gambling room, a police contact, a warehouse key. Information pours from him. Fear makes men generous with property that belongs to others. Bumpy raises one hand. Vincent stops. You think this is business? Vincent looks at the weight. What else is it? Bumpy answers, that is why you are here. 13:21. Bumpy walks toward the garage door. His man opens a smaller side entrance. Daylight enters. Beyond it, a narrow path leads toward the water. Not a dock, not a public road. Only reeds, mud, a low concrete embankment. Vincent sees the river. His knees weaken slightly. Paulie looks away. Dominic does not. Witnesses must see enough to carry truth. Not everything. Bumpy turns back. He looks at Vincent, then at the two men who came with him. The message will be simple. No one asks what it is. Some messages are understood before words arrive. The river continues moving. Water never argues with weight. 13:32. The path from the water is empty now. Reeds move only where the wind passes, not where feet had been. Bumpy walks back through the side door alone. His shoes carry no mud past the threshold. He wipes them anyway. Inside the garage, nothing has been rearranged. The cart stands where it stood. The canvas lies folded beside it. A place does not need decoration to remember what happened in it. It only needs silence. 13:43. Two men wait near the trucks. They ask nothing. Bumpy looks at Vincent's belongings still resting on the workbench. The wallet, the cigarettes, the silver lighter. The St. Christopher medal. He picks up the medal, turns it once in his palm, sets it down again, face up. A man's protection outlives the man far more often than it saves him. 1354. Bumpy turns to Paulie and Dominic. Both stand straighter than they have all day. "You're going back," Paulie exhales. Dominic does not move yet. "Both of you." "To do what?" Dominic asks. "To talk." Bumpy's voice stays level. "Not to threaten, to talk." The difference matters more than either of them understands yet. 1405. Bumpy picks up the bear from the bench, hands it to Paulie. "The child first." "Before anything?" "Before anything." Paulie takes it carefully, as if it could still be broken further. Some debts are small enough to pay before the large ones are even counted. He nods. He does not trust his voice yet. 1416. "Then Carlo," Bumpy says to Dominic, "tell him everything you saw, from the fruit to the water." "He'll ask what happened at the water. Tell him that too." Dominic looks toward the empty cart. "He'll want to know if there's a body to answer for." "There's nothing for the syndicate to answer for." "That's yours." The sentence closes a door neither man needs to open again. 1427. And after Carlo? He decides who hears it next. You're trusting that to him. I'm trusting the message, not the man. A true account moves upward on its own weight. It does not need an escort. It only needs someone honest enough to repeat it without softening it. 1438. Bumpy hands Dominic 3 sentences, and only 3. "A man of mine was publicly insulted at his wife's table. The man responsible has answered for it alone. Nobody else needs to." No names in the message, no threats, no demand for anything further. The fewer the words, the harder they are to twist on the way up. 1449. The 2 men are driven back into the city. Paulie holds the bear on his lap the entire ride. Dominic watches the streets change from warehouse gray to brownstone brick. Neither speaks until Lenox Avenue appears. "You think Carlo believes it wasn't a war starting?" "I think Carlo already knew before we opened our mouths." The men who survive longest are the ones who hear trouble before it arrives, dressed as an explanation. 1503. Paulie finds the mother's building near 132nd Street. He climbs the stairs slowly, bear in both hands. The door opens. The child recognizes the toy before she recognizes him. Paulie says the words Bumpy required. No excuses folded inside them. The mother says nothing back. She only takes the bear and closes the door. Some apologies are accepted without ever being forgiven. That is still an ending. 1520. Dominic reaches Carlo's office above the tailor shop on 116th. He repeats the account exactly as he gave it in the garage. The fruit, the gun, the overturned table, then the drive to the water, and what he did not see there. Carlo listens without writing anything down. Facts spoken plainly need no notebook. It is the softened versions that require paperwork to survive. 1534. He's not asking for anything? No. No money. No apology from us. No. Carlo leans back. Then what does he want? Dominic answers with Bumpy's own sentence. For the men above to understand, it was never about territory. Carlo studies him a long moment. That's the part they'll find hardest to believe. 1610. Carlo sends the account north through channels that do not use telephones. A driver, a sealed note, a second driver who never meets the first. Each hand that carries it adds nothing and removes nothing. That is the only kind of message the Commission trusts. By evening, it has climbed past two men whose names never appear in newspapers. 1847. The account reaches a quiet dining room on Central Park West. Lucky Luciano eats slowly, unhurried by the paper set beside his plate. He finishes the course before he reads it, then reads it once more. He asks the only question that matters to him. Who started it? His man answers. A soldier, 28, Rallo. Not one of ours by weight, by family. No family behind him, just a title he gave himself. 1902. And the wife? Untouched. The gun was shown, not fired. The husband? Handled it himself. No crew involved beyond the two who witnessed. Luciano sets down his fork. He could have brought 50 men to Mulberry Street tonight. He brought a message instead. Silence sits at the table longer than the question did. 1915. A question of honor, Luciano says, is not argued in front of a commission. No one at the table answers him. None is needed. If I send men to avenge a boy who pulled a gun on another man's wife over pastries, I am not defending our business. I am telling every wife in this city that her husband's table is negotiable. He folds the note once and sets it beside his plate, not in front of it. 1926. Send word back through Carlo. What word? None. Nothing at all? Nothing is the answer. He'll understand it faster than a letter. A man who has already decided not to fight does not need to announce the decision. He only needs to make sure the silence reaches the right ears. 1948. By 9, word moves the opposite direction through the same quiet channels. No demands, no apology owed, no meeting requested. Carlo receives it standing in his own doorway and says only, "That's all." Dominic, still waiting outside, understands before Carlo repeats it. Some wars end not with a treaty, but with the absence of one. 2011. Bumpy is at home when the second man arrives at his door with the answer. He listens standing in the hallway, hat still in his hand. He does not sit down for it. When the man finishes, Bumpy nods once and thanks him by name. No celebration. A war avoided rarely feels like a victory to the man who prevented it. It only feels like a debt finally closed. 2022. Clara is in the kitchen when he comes in. She sees his face before he says anything. They're not coming. No. She sets down the towel in her hands. Because of what you did, or in spite of it? Bumpy considers the question longer than she expects. Because of what I didn't do. 2033. He did not burn a block. He did not send men through Little Italy with orders and torches. He answered one man with one man and let the rest of the city keep its evening. Clara studies him across the kitchen table. That's not nothing, Bumpy. No, he says. It's the whole thing. In Harlem, for years afterward, people told the story of the exhibition on West 138th Street, differently depending on who was speaking. Some remembered the overturned table. Some remembered the gun. Few ever learned exactly what happened near the water that afternoon, and fewer still asked. But everyone remembered that the war did not come. Not because anyone was afraid of Bumpy Johnson, and not because the syndicate feared losing a fight over one careless boy. It was because even the most dangerous men in New York understood the difference between a war for territory and a debt paid for a wife's honor, and knew better than to confuse the two.